Folks, you with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the fiasco or the Bud Light fiasco. Bud Light as a brand has been suffering. Their sales have dipped, and they've got a bit of an image issue now that they didn't have previously. And it's hard to imagine a more unsuccessful marketing campaign than the one Bud Light got involved in. So, this is using Dylan Mulvaney as as the centerpiece of their advertising campaign. So it's got to be, it's a royal fuck up. That's what it is. And I don't know how much it's costing Bud, the company, or the wider company, and the brand itself. And they're going to have to throw a lot of money at this to get back into the game. But so the cost to them in not only lost revenues, but in the expense and the time it's going to take to win back the customers. We're talking quite serious money here. Not that the company, I guess, can't afford it at the end of the day, but like a lot of private companies, or a lot of businesses rather, their focus is on, or should be on, selling more of their product. Now let's sort of go back to the beginning. But Bud, the brand, had got a problem as they see it. Now I'm a guy who's a corporate. I've spent my time in the corporate world, and I've also served my time in the marketing department. So I have some understanding of how these things play out at a marketing in a marketing sense, but also at the corporate level, how things can be influenced by corporate attitudes. Now, Bud have got a problem that their overall share of the alcohol consumption market has leveled off, and in the overall sense is in what they see as a slow decline. Now, this is not because people aren't drinking beer anymore. There's competition from wine and things like that. So other drinks. Some of the new migrants coming to the United States, they're not drinking beer to the same extent as the local white population has been. So as the number of straight white males, if you like, in the total population is declining on a relative basis, that means the number of beer drinkers is declining. So what does Bud do? So they look into the future, not just tomorrow or the next day, but 5 years now, 10 years now. What are they going to do to reposition their brand to give it wider appeal outside of straight white males? Because they're looking at a situation where, hey, it won't be long for straight white males, the minority of the population. We've got a bigger population. It's growing substantially due to mass immigration, and illegal or otherwise. And so how can we get those new people coming in to drink our consume our product, in this case, of course, beer? So they would have been thinking about how do we address this slow but inevitable decline, and how do we reach into new areas of consumer? Now that's the problem they're facing. Now it is a challenge, and as you sit around the table with hopefully some of the brighter marketing minds that you've got, then you would have to come up with some sort of strategies. Now I've been at these meetings, these strategy marketing meetings, and I, when I was senior enough to do it, I'd make a point of not inviting idiots into the room that would come out with silly nonsense. Marketing departments tend to be overpopulated with women, so straight away you've got an overrepresentation of people that have been radicalized through the NGO system and so on. A lot of those women will be affirmative action hires, so you're not talking about high caliber brain power people. It didn't really bother me who was in the marketing department, but it had to be people that could make a decent contribution and understood the issues. And this is something that I found as more and more women came into the marketing department, then it started to become different in the sense that they were relying heavily on, would think through problems and challenges. They would think it through based on their radicalisation through the education system and the NGOs and so on. Most of these girls who got jobs in marketing had never actually had a job before. Their only exposure to anything that even remotely resembled work was being effectively recruited as a volunteer to wave placards on the street about climate change or feminism or something like that. So they came in with a very, very narrow worldview, and they'd never had to accept responsibility in their lives. They were really just I don't know, they were still school children in reality. Now that's the sense of what I sort of detected from the Jewish lady who was the I think the VP of marketing or whatever she was called. Just the interview she was on, she sounded like a child. Now she came from a wealthy background, so she's never really had to think about money. And she's obviously been shoehorned just through, I would suggest, social connections through the Jewish gift-giving diaspora, as well as the affirmative action, as well as we need a woman and that sort of thing. Beer company, a man should be there. Let's do the opposite. Let's put a woman in that job. Yeah, hey, what an achievement. We've struck a blow for equality. So they put a privileged, entitled, in my view, snotty woman in to be the marketing director or the VP of marketing. Would have been handsomely paid. I doubt if with stock options her paycheck would be anything less than, say, a couple, $2.5 million for the year, which is in keeping with the wealthy sort of background that she's got, like a family and everything. So she comes in, and then they decide that they're going to give the promotional marketing advertising contract to a very gay, very left wing, very all white men, a Hitler type place. They're going to give a marketing, and on fairly decent dollars, by the way. They're going to give that to the San Francisco, very leftist, very anti-straight white male advertising agency. Now, coming from that part of town and having the attitudes of that bubble and that, so what should we do about advertising? I know what we'll do. We'll just put shit on straight white men. We'll say they're frat boys. We'll say they're fucking Nazis. And that'll be how we sell the beer. But wait a minute, someone says in the room, okay, but most of our drinkers are straight white males. So why would we want to alienate, the bulk of our customers by going in an anti sort of straight white male path? I mean, why would we want to snub our nose at the people who are actually paying the bills and paying our salaries? Who cares? They're all fucking Nazis. That doesn't matter. We put it in because the market's changing very soon. These straight white males will be a minority. So fuck them. We want to get that huge market out there of transgender lesbians. That's what we want. But wait a minute. Transgender lesbians, they're not even 1% of the potential beer drinkers. And it's going to be a tough gig to win them across from white wine and stuff that they're currently drinking. Who cares? Now, if you're in the room there and someone's pitching this at you, you'd go, no, we're going to piss off 99% of our customers in order to attract at best 1% of extra drinkers. No, that's dumb, guys. You go back to the drawing board, dudes. Come back with something that works. That's bullshit. But instead, somehow it just gets ticked off. Everyone ticks at the box, and it just goes straight through. And we're going to hire a transgender character called Dylan Mulvaney, and he's going to dress in women's clothing and pretend he's a woman. We're going to do that, and that's going to be what advertises our beer brand. And again, the alarm bells would go off. So, hold on. Nearly all our customers are straight white males. How's that going to affect them? And somebody would have had to say, well, who gives a fuck? They're all fucking Nazis anyway. Now, okay, you can do that when you're a college kid in studying, doing gender studies or something. You can get away with that attitude there. But this is a commercial business, and no commercial business tries to piss off its existing customers willfully. Not that they haven't tried. I mean, look at Gillette and these sorts of things, with their So I'm sort of taking a different view here, that these big companies are part of sort of the globalist push to destabilize Western society and to crush straight white males and make them irrelevant, force them into irrelevancy. And that's somehow a part of a greater good. I wouldn't be surprised if Bud Light, sort of given the losses they've taken, is able to somehow go and get compensation elsewhere, better tax breaks, more tax write-offs, something like that happening in background to sort of lighten the load in terms of the financial loss they're taking. But as a commercial thing, nobody would do what they did. No marketing manager would sign off on that. No managing director or president or CEO would sign off on that. This is something that only activists would sign off on. So now the overall objective of how do we attract more drinkers, I get that, but nobody would sign off on that being the method. You wouldn't appoint that particular advertising agency to do it, and you wouldn't do it in the way that they did it, because it's guaranteed to be counterproductive, as indeed the Gillette one was, and others that I've seen. So there's probably a higher proportion of straight white males forming the customer base in this beer than maybe would be in some other places where you get a wider spread of customers anywhere, like in Target, for example. So the chances of this sort of advertising campaign achieving anything, the Dylan Mulvaney one, in terms of keeping your existing customer base and attracting new one, the chances of success of that sort of thing, that campaign as it was structured, the chances of success were very, very minimal. I just can't imagine that anybody would have even thought it would have been successful. So they must have got off on the idea of the activism itself. We're turning things on their head. Those damn fucking frat boy Nazis, we're showing them, we're going to give them a good old dose of transgenderism. And if they complain about it, they're fucking Hitler. And, interesting that it's a very Jewish girl VP of marketing here as well. Now, I don't think these people, in spite of the commercial disasters they inflict, it must be that they're getting wide support. It's part of almost a George Soros commitment to destroying Western society. And if they suffer commercially and badly because of it, who cares? Because we've achieved something. We've slapped a few Nazis around, and that's a good thing. And that seems to be the objective more than anything commercial. But I've noticed that the CEOs and the marketing directors and all these people, VPs of marketing, that inflict these commercial disasters on their brand, they typically, in fact, I can't find an exception, they go off and get a better job, and they're very well looked after. So the globalist machine, you did what we wanted, you struck a blow against those damn straight white male Nazis, that's good. So what if it costs hundreds of millions of dollars? And that's a price worth paying for further destabilizing the Western white diaspora. So you've done what you've delivered what we wanted you to, and so we'll give you another job on millions of dollars a year. So these people are still being very well looked after, whether it be directly or indirectly, or they mysteriously pop up as a do-nothing consultant on millions of dollars a year somewhere, and some think tank or an NGO or something like that. So the globalists look after them here. So we've got to assume that it was intentional what they did. The chances of commercial success were very limited. And I don't think anybody, even I remember in high school commerce, where was basic sort of high school marketing 101, the requirements for a successful advertising campaign, that Dylan Mulvaney thing met none of that criteria that I learned in like third year high school. So I don't believe that a VP of marketing and the CEO and all the other sort of operatives and flunkies in the marketing, I don't believe any of them would have approved it on a strictly commercial basis. So it must have been an ideological process that they went through. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.